Brother Victorino was born on September 7, 1885, in France. He was baptized the same day of his birth in the church of Saint Amand in the neighboring town of Chadron in France, and they gave him the name of Augustin Arnaud. He grew up in a humble and deeply Christian home next to his father, who was French, and his mother, who was of Catalonian and French descent. In his youth, Augustine went to weekly catechism classes in a neighboring town parish church. The priest in charge of the religious teachings observed the human and spiritual qualities of Augustine. For this reason, he managed to have him admitted in an important Catholic school, and through its director obtained him a scholarship. He made his first Holy Communion in May 1897, when he was a few months short of 12 years of age, as an exception, because at that time the minimum age was 12 years old. His academic and spiritual rhythm gave signs of being ahead of his chronological age. A short time after his first communion, Augustine entered the minor novitiate that the brothers of the Christian schools de La Salle had in Valprédépieux in order to initiate his Lassallian education. He still did not have the minimum required age of 12 years. There he spent a very happy and fruitful time in all senses, surrounded by a pious ambience and excellent friendships. From his written memoirs we read, "When I was just about 13 or 14 years old, I remember a very significant factor in my life. It was during the Spanish-American War and therefore the Cuban Independence War. The newspapers would bring daily news, and I was extremely interested in them. Together with one of my friends, at certain hours of every day, we would go into the school chaplain's office, and with a newspaper he had there, we would be abreast of everything. What was most interesting for us about the news in Cuba? Did I know something about Cuba? Did I imagine that one day I would live and work there? No, nothing like that. But sometimes, during the adolescent years, there would be providential premonitions that cannot be explained. On the 28th of October of 1901, during the old religious festivity of the Holy Patronage of the Holy Virgin Mary, the candidate wore for the first time the brother's habit, a black robe with a white rabat. He received the new religious name by which we all came to know him, Brother Nymphes Victorine, a name that would be eventually shortened by his fellow Cuban brothers to Brother Victorino, even though some would call him lovingly Vitico. Because of his excellent academic and professional training, during 1902 he was sent to a famous boarding school that the brothers had in the same city of Lisieux. There he was trained as a Lassallian educator. In July 1903, with only 19 years of age, he obtained the title of teacher. In 1904, he decided to leave his native country to go to Canada. In August of that same year, he was destined to be in charge of the first year of the business class at the Commercial Academy of Quebec. In February of 1905, a letter from the Lassallian superiors arrived in Canada asking for volunteers for new schools and foundations in the Antilles, especially in Cuba. After 17 days at sea, he arrived to the largest of the Antilles Islands, Cuba, on September 10, 1905. Almost everyone speaks of Brother Victorino as the founder of the Cuban Catholic Youth Federation, and few speak of his work as a teacher. The longest time of his professional career was dedicated to business education. In the absence of textbooks of bookkeeping and accounting, Brother Victorino found in the United States a very appropriate method for beginners from which he was able to develop a paper in Spanish on business theory. There is another aspect of Brother Victorino as teacher that is little known: his abilities to draw and decorate. During those times, it was customary to decorate the classrooms with adequate drawings for each subject. Most of the drawings were done by Brother Victorino's pencil. He also designed the altar for Our Lady of Lourdes and for St. Joseph. On the 8th day of September of 1913, during the festivities of Our Lady of Charity, Cuba's patron saint, Brother Victorino made his perpetual vows. On Saturday, February 11, 1928, a delegation of 14 associations and Catholic schools signed the Constitution of the Cuban Catholic Youth Federation, a project considered by Brother Victorino as a church project. Before setting up the federation, Brother Victorino had adopted the national colors of Cuba, blue, white, and red, and designed and made the federation's distinctive emblem, its shield. In 1932, Brother Victorino proposed to design a flag for the federation. Victorino, inspired by the federation's ideals, did as he had done when designing the emblem. He managed to blend into a pleasant integration the symbols of his great loves, religion and motherland, with the solitary star of the national flag, together with the symbol of our redemption, the cross, over the ocean's blue. The Federation's crest spreads the truth over the 4 cardinal points of the motherland. In 1937, the motto Piety, Education, and Action was adopted. Brother Victorino always stated that the youth should unite and organize themselves. He would say that he was only a simple initiator, but that the youth themselves had to launch and lead a modern movement. In 1936, it was decided to set aside the last Sunday of September to celebrate the Day of the Catholic Youth with patriotic, religious and cultural acts and fundraisings to benefit the most needy. The first celebration in the Cathedral of Habana was attended by over 1,500 young people. Something Brother always insisted on was to give the greatest emphasis to the formation of members and leaders. Generally, it was in the Knights of Columbus Hall that the members gathered, and they were welcomed like part of the family. There they had conferences, workshops, study groups, and they also issued a monthly magazine for publicity. From 1945 on, Brother Victorino participated in various national and international events. Also, he received distinctions that he considered a confirmation of his apostolate trajectory. October 10, 1945, the Cuban government granted him the greatest distinction of the country, the Carlos Manuel de Céspedes Cross, for his extraordinary labor in favor of the national youth. In 1947, he was the personal interpreter for the Cuban delegation during the 300-year celebration of the founding of Port-au-Prince City in Haiti. In 1950, he was a secretary of the Cuban pilgrimage to Rome during the celebration of the Holy Year, and met in a private audience with Pope Pius XII, who blessed a Cuban flag, which Brother Victorino in turn gave to the Council of the Cuban Catholic Youth Federation. In 1951, he received the title of Doctor in Public Law honoris causa from the University of Villanueva in Havana, Cuba. On February 11, 1953, on the occasion of the celebration of the silver anniversary of the Cuban Catholic Youth Federation, the Pope granted Brother Victorino the prestigious pontifical decoration Pro Ecclesia et Pontifice, which was presented by Archbishop Enrique Pérez Cerantes. Brother Victorino was a man of great faith and perseverance. He would never give up before trying a new idea, and he would continue on until his objective was accomplished. In an interview in 1955, Brother Victorino told Luisa Muñoz del Valle, "I am almost Cuban. I became a Cuban citizen many years ago, and I have been studying the souls of children and adolescents for over 50 years. How am I not going to know them? In this confession, one cannot help but invoke the parable of the Good Shepherd. The Good Shepherd knows his sheep, and his sheep know him, and he gives his life for his sheep. Even though many did not understand Brother Victorino's plan for the renovation of the church in Cuba, the idealistic Cuban youth close to him had the intuition and the perception that this man was setting the base for the future church, where the laity is an essential part of the church and at the same time an integral part of it, with their talents and specific ministries. Tenderness seemed to be the most characteristic feature of the human and spiritual personality of Brother Victorino, and the one that made him more like Jesus of Nazareth. Generosity was another of Brother Victorino's characteristics. He was always available to everyone, especially the most needy and those suffering. He was a real free man in his interior life, free of ambitions and material interests, poor, always available and free of envy. He was so humble that his shyness would make him blush whenever he was paid a compliment. All of us who were lucky enough to know him testify to this. We have a debt with him for all the love we received, for the benefit that the contact with him brought into our lives. What Brother Victorino meant to the church in Cuba and to the Cuban nation should be known. From heaven, the slow-walking and totally humble man will offer us that smile so full of goodness that so often brought happiness to our lives. Brother Victorino passed away in Puerto Rico on the 16th day of April 1966 and is buried in Portacelli Cemetery in Bayamon. His beatification cause has been introduced in the Vatican. Please communicate the favors obtained through the intercession of Brother Victorino to Brother Wilfredo Perez, P.O. Box 518, Bayamon, Puerto Rico 0960, or by email at hnovictorinodelasalle@bellsouth.net.